Okay, test, test. Okay, everything. Mic not broken this time. Okay. Uh, okay, so this stream is going to be very, very simple. As I'll do something that nobody else doing videos and streams on EVE Online has ever done for EVE Online and phone, and that is make, well, it's not a video, it's a stream about EVE Online that doesn't focus on making as much ISK as possible in the easiest way possible, or meta builds, which I know, terrifying concept. How dare you do something other in EVE Online than those two? But never mind. Sorry, I just saw something on my phone. But yeah, what I'll be doing is ranking ships, which, you know, people have done ranking ships before, nothing new. However, not on how they good perform, how they're good in PvP, PvE, mining, etc., but purely on design, visuals, aesthetic, etc. Because from my quick search, I haven't seen really anybody do it. I've seen like one, maybe two shirts resembling what I'm doing right now. Which, you know, saddens me a little bit, because it would be nice if, you know, you could talk about anything else besides two things in EVE, you know, this big ass game. However, I will be doing that, which I'm now realizing I'm going in circles. But first, before we go, few ground rules. Number 1 is going to be scale 1 to 10, simple as. Number 2, purely design. Doesn't matter how the ship itself performs. It could be the worst ship in EVE by a wide margin, but if it looks cool, doesn't matter how good or bad it performs. However, I will be taking the bonuses, like if a ship is, you know, a scanner ship, but it looks like, you know, it has 500,000 tons of armor on it, it will impact the scoring. If a missile ship looks like a gunship and a gunship looks like a missile ship, it doesn't really, you know, it's going to affect a little bit, but, you know, some of those. And another thing, we're going to be starting with Caldari. And why I say starting is because, as you can see, we're going to go through all of the ships, from the Corvette to the Howlers, Freighters, Frigates, Cruisers, Battleships, and Titan. However, we won't be doing Guristas right now, or other pirate factions. That will be their own thing, and the other three major factions / empires will be their own streams, or maybe videos in the future. Videos from streams. Because there is a lot of ships. Yet not a lot. Like, it's weird. I mean, Trelavian has a decent amount. So yeah, first the 4 major empires, then all these 5, so Serpentids, Angels, Blood Raiders, Sunshine, Guristas will be 1, because each doesn't have a lot. Then Mordu Sisters, Idincom, Concord, Socom, and Death Circle will be a third one, and maybe Trilavian will be a quick fourth one. I shall see, I don't know. I cannot predict future. Let me just quickly do something. Okay. Okay, so I think I'll go Corvette, obviously is the starting point, but I'll go down here, shuttle, transport, and freighter, because there's not a lot of them, and then all the frigates here, then all the destroyers, all cruisers, very simple. So let's actually start with my first ever ship introduction in EVE, the Ibis, which when I started I thought all the Corvettes were Ibis, like those are all one ship type. But no, it's its own little thing. Well, and I will say, it's a Corvette, it's starter ship. I wish they did a little bit more with starter ships before, maybe back in the day, but today it's like 2-3 minutes you're in a frigate. Basically, once you actually start playing the game, you go immediately frigates, so corvettes. And I'm thankful that they did that. Yes, got remodeled, got new models, because the old Ibis was horrifying to look at. This one is okay. There's nothing that pops out to me. It does have the little wings with the tiny engines on them, which do slide up and down for some reason. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, all Caldari ships have also this, the names. But unlike like the few Galantis ships that have ship name, and on the ship it's spelled like Tristan, and it's Tristan painted on the ship. Here they decide, I have no idea what's the actual terminology for it, but letters and numbers to make it so when you look at it, it spells the name of the ship, which brings every Caldari ship has that. And it brings the visuals, ironically for me, down once you realize that every ship has them. Like, not only a few, like, if the standard ships only had them, that would be fine. But every Caldari ship has them, and every Caldari ship is getting reduction points from that. Only to say this is a 5 out of 10 ship. It's not bad design, but it's nothing too special. It's just, it's a gun that you fly backwards, literally, like upper part, lower part. I just realized now. But yeah, it is a ship. However, now we go into the frigates with the Kestrel, which is a light missile / rocket ship. And I actually do like the design. It gives me a little bit Mimitar vibes with how skinny it is. I have no idea what those in the front are, but it reminds me of the dual fuselage planes of World War II, where you have basically two planes connected, and that's it. You know, you get two engines, double the firepower with more space and more guns. And the castle reminds me a little bit of that, which I do kinda like. I don't know, has all the doohickeys here on the right. Well, right when you look at from this, left if you look at from this. And the cockpit like all the way out there. Now, I don't know where the attachment points for the missiles would be, but I'm going to presume up here and down here, which, yeah, that would make sense. Like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe even a 7. I do like it, but again, there is nothing that is screaming at me that tells me, oh yeah, this is the good stuff. So 7.5 out of 10, I think would be a good score. Next is the Bantam, which, if you ever had Legos, it's literally just that piece that you get for more easily removing two Lego pieces apart from each other. Like, that is that part, and this is the other part. However, that aside, we do not have too many tall ships. We have long ships, we have wide ships, but we do not have tall ships. And this is supposed to be like a logistic, which, I don't know, doesn't scream logistic to me. I don't think it even has a cockpit. Maybe that's center port, but it's okay. I do like more vertical ship design, a little bit more bulky. 6.5 out of 10. It's interesting. But yeah, it's a Lego disconnector. The Condor. I very much like the Condor because it's basically a fighter plane in space. It's also a missile ship with propulsion jamming, so yeah, it's like a F-15 but in space. You cannot go wrong with aircraft, but repurposed for space flight. Because aircraft are cool, and this is literally just that. Like, it even has an air intake at the bottom. And again, let me just check how fast it is. 400 compared to, let's say, you. Okay, it's not that much faster, which, you would think with all these engines, but that little hump is throwing me off a little bit. If maybe it was this part where my mouse is cut off, and then this part unloaded it a little bit further front, because it just has a weird hump now. But I do like my spaceship, but it's fighter jet, so. However, not bulky. Maybe too bulky, actually. I don't know. 8.5 out of 10. And now we have the Griffin, which is actually weird. It's a ECM, basically a... Oh god, what is it called? Uh, Electronic warfare, yeah, that's right. And it has a lot of, protruding bits for antennas and such. Again, it's has the bulkiness, but I don't know. Quite a lot of pointy bits. And I just noted it has the thing is that sidewalks that stop cars just pointing out. That's neat, but flaps, I don't know. Maybe too much protruding things. Like, I know it's supposed to be electronic warfare, but come on. Oh, I just noticed it also has the visual target domes, whatnot, here on top. Like laser rangefinder thingies. I don't know. It's just another thing that I don't like about it is just minus. If it didn't have the middle part here, this thing extruding, it would be just flat. Like a pog. I don't know. Not biggest fan, 4.5. I admire the effort, but a little bit too much things protruding for no reason. Alright. We got another fighter jet in space. However, this time it's vertical. I mean, it even has underneath the pods where you think the missiles would go. However, I do like the Merlin. I don't know. There is just something about it that makes me go, yeah, this seems like a reasonable build, unironically. Maybe if there was a little bit filling between the what I'm supposed to think is the cockpit and the nose. However, I think an 8 or 8.5 out of 10 would be very much appreciated, and there is a hangar. Again, gunship. However, no drones, so I have no idea what that is. Shuttles, maybe? Or it's just this blue thingies. I don't know with some of these designs. But let's go with 8.5 out of 10. And more vertical. The big H. There is off-center cockpit. A little bit unsymmetrical, which I appreciate. Engine addition on the left. The Heron. And this is the, probing and whatnot. I don't know, I kinda like it. I don't know why it's about just big plates, but I like them. There's not many unnecessary protruding things, unlike with the Griffin. I would say like 8.5 would be good. I won't go over navy because navy is literally same model but color scheme, except this one, the Caldari Navy hookbill, which is also a little bit of fighter plane spaceship. However, it is a sort of combination between Merlin and Condor. And as the name suggests, it has quite the hookbill. However, I don't like the color scheme. I mean, obviously you can just go in, change this colors, obviously. But I think like this just, if it was default, because that's what I'm looking at, default. Light missiles. Because, yeah, each major empire has one of those special navy frigates. However, the more one sucks. I'll say that immediately. I don't like it too much. However, the Mimitar one is basically this, but a slightly better. It is literally almost the exact same ship, but it's just, in my opinion, a little bit better looking than this one. However, this ain't bad. 7 out of 10. Because I like my frigates. And now we go to the Tech 2, which are normally just normal variants, but a couple things stapled on. This has, I think, more engines, or those big things on them. The Crow, which I'll go with the same that the Condor has, because plus this on the side. Okay, for the Tech 2, because they're the Tech 2, I mean the Navy are exactly the same but different normal paint job, and the Tech 2 just have a little bit tacked on. I won't actually score the Tech 2 unless it's a major change. If it's like minor, like, oh look, they have one extra panel here, I won't judge them, because there are some Tech 2 ships that are visually different. So Crow, nothing special. Raptor, I think he's again same model but different color scheme. Hawk has a couple extra pointy bit of lenses and these spinny things, which you would think, oh, those are like big ass guns, quote unquote, and you would think it's a gunship, but no, it's a missile ship, so I don't know. Doesn't add too much to pique my interest, so nothing. But the Harpy, also the same. They just add the big cylinders beneath the wings. Buzzard is different color scheme. Manticore. Ah, the stealth bomber. Now this is, what is it called? The Kestrel. But visually it is a lot different. Again, we have that extruding cockpit on the side, which I like. And it's just a bulkier Kestrel with more smoothing to give it a little bit more stealthy look. I would say 9 out of 10. I like in general all the stealth bombers, the covert orb ops, because they are unique enough from other frigates and not just has one extra panel or recolor. So yeah, well that's it. 8 out of 10. I do like the Manticore. Kitsune, even more pointy bits, oh my god. Again, I know it's electronic warfare, but oh my god, can you stop with the pointy bits? Whatever is set for the Griffin, -2 on this one. Points. And Kirin Logistics, which I think is, again, just a recolor. So nothing special. Now, onto probably my favorite destroyer, the Corax, which literally looks like all those sci-fi missile ships. However, I do very much like the design of engines of this. So it's not symmetrical, it's asymmetrical, which is usually fine. However, actually no, there is no however. This is like a 9.5 out of 10. Because if you like close your eyes and picture yourself a spaceship that is like equivalent to like a missile cruiser, you would picture something close resembling the Corax. And there is nothing wrong with, a little bit of defaultism, but these designs I always like. Because they just look nice. It's a missile destroyer. Now, the gun destroyer, it just looks bad. I don't know how would you redesign this to save it. Because the front part, a lot of spiky bits. CCP loves their antennas. They got put them everywhere. I do like the flaps. It is a nice, smooth, slick design. However, I have two complaints. The first one, a little bit silly, but the front part here looks like any modern SUV car. It literally does. And number two, are this on the side. Usually are the guns. I don't know why they put them there. Maybe like how you see it here, like how that wide is before the flaps, if that just continued going like until the second, then you know what I mean, like extruded this part until like here and then just connect it like this. Because right now I have no idea why they just gave pods to the side of this thing. Maybe like fatten it up beneath and then just stick the guns on the side, then it would look a little bit better. But overall, yeah, I am not a big fan of the Cormorant. It just looks off to me. So I will give it a 3.5 out of 10. It's a silly design, but I don't like it. However, the navy I do like a lot more, funny enough. And though it does look a little bit flatter than its standard issue, it widens the front here. So the pods on the side, even though they're still like previously, moving parts, whatever, they don't look like they're extruding from the side too much. They look like they're neatly a part of the ship. And I would say this is like a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Because it just looks a lot better. It doesn't look wrong ship. Because if you look at this, it's just a stick, a T-stick with some boxes sticking out the side. But the navy looks a lot more connected. That's the best way I can put it. It looks a lot more connected, which I like a lot more. So yeah, 6.5 to 7 out of 10. And the flycatcher, the interdictor, 3.5 out of 10. Same with the regular, but now it has, number one, it lost its flaps, which I liked. Now they're a lot shorter. Number two, pointy bits. For some reason again. So same score as the regular one. And now the Stork, which is the command variant, which I think is just has like 2 or 3 extra pieces. So I won't give anything to that. However, the tactical destroyer, the Jackdaw, is a transforming ship, so all these Tech 3 destroyers can change stances. However, I don't like the Jackdaw, honestly. It's a stick. It's a stick with sticks sticking out. Because if we go, because here you cannot see it, but simulation, you can see the sticks that are sticking out. Yeah. Actually, correction. It's a stick with sticks that are sticking out of sticks. There's 3 stick layers. There are sticks and sticks that are under the stick that is the ship. I don't like the Jackdaw design. It's like a 3 out of 10 at best. Because it's, I think, like the longest, half a kilometer destroyer, which, for a destroyer that are normally 200 meters, that's big. But this is long, not big, it's stick. I think I have something lying around me that looks exactly like this. 3.5 out of 10. Now, on to the cruisers. Which, yes, give me a second. Okay, cruisers. Let's start with Caracal, which is essentially a Condor on steroids. However, they try to distinguish it from the Condor by shifting all this down. Which, if they cut out this bottom part, I would very much like this design. Because again, it's aircraft but spaceship. It, sticking bits, but overall, it's not 99% of the spaceship visual here. There are pointy bits of antennas, but they're not too distracting. However, that literally just shift down. Somebody literally selected and moved it down, which I don't like. Oh, I didn't ever notice there are balls in some kind there. Huh. But overall, a 5 out of 10. It could be a better design, but again, nothing. It is basically this part that ruins it. For me, at least. MOA, I don't know. Actually, it's a really good question. What do I think of the MOA? It's very much an F-117 Blackhawk with its all big angular plates. I don't know. It's a ship that is not badly modeled. It doesn't look bad. It's just default, how should I say? I will say better than the old one. 100 times. But I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because it's not bad, it's not good. There is nothing particularly exciting. Anything it has, other ships have it, but better. Visually wise. It does have condors. I think that's what they are called. Up front. That's like 0.1 extra point. So 5.1 out of 10. However, the Osprey is interesting. It's a very bulky ship with basically arms on the side, which I like way more on the Navy version. But the default Osprey, I think compared to the Navy, let me just quickly check. Yes, has these things on the front part, which reminds me of that guy from Transformers 2, the jet guy. You know what I'm talking about. I cannot remember his name right now, but it literally looks like him. And I kinda like it. I don't know, it's late, I don't know what I'm saying, but it does suffer a little bit of caracal in that take what would normally be straight, through and shift it down, because how there we have conventional ships that look how you expect them to look. We gotta change it a bit. But overall, 6.8 out of 10. However, the Blackbird, which is another I forgot the name again, electronic warfare ship. But instead of a frigate, it's a cruiser with a lot of pointy bits. I like the general shape. I do like how it has the control towers on top. The base model, very nice. However, all those pointy bits, all those random antennas for the sake of antennas, is what I don't like too much. If there were a couple, okay, but like, look at the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, 5 there. On the wings, another 3. Here 2, here another 2. Here 2, here 2. Here another 3. However, because it is a bigger ship, the antennas aren't taking as much space as on the Griffin. So give it a tiny bit less slack. And I'll say 5.5 out of 10. Now, the Navy Osprey, it loses the things on its front part here, which knocks it back. However, the arm flaps I very much like, because they're basically giant suitcases for the missile launcher. Because when you warp, these things close and do a flip, because of course the CCP dev team wants to a little bit put animation in every ship, which I don't mind. Just could do less spinny. Overall, I do like the Navy Osprey a little tiny bit more than the standard. However, not by a lot. I'll say 7 out of 10. Cargo Navy's color, that's it. Recon ship, the Rook. Same amount of spiky bits, however, actually no, the front spiky bits are gone. Yippee. The control towers, or at least the left one, here is a little bit more chunky. I don't remember what I said for Blackbird. 5.8 I think. This is like a 6 out of 10. Because it's essentially, I mean, it's not essentially a chunkier Blackbird, it's just got a chunkier control tower, which I do like. However, we do have the Falcon, which is another slight modification, but I'll also still go with 6 out of 10 because it doesn't do anything too drastic to separate it from the other, from the Rook. And for the heavy assault cruisers, we have the Cerberus, which shortens the nose here. However, it still droops down. It's still caught past down. If this part was attached here, so it was continuous, I will like it 10 times more. Or slight curvature down instead of just, you know, tick box move down. However, it's not as long as it's not as off-putting. Let's say 5.5, 6, 6.5, something like that, out of 10. And the eagle is a Elvis Presley Moa. It's still, it just has literally a big chunk of metal for a forehead. And the mic. It's Tyler 1 as a spaceship. I don't know. 6.5 out of 10. If it was a little bit more encased, a little bit more continuous, maybe higher, but let's go 6.5 out of 10. Onyx, on the other hand, keeps the front parts same. However, these parts are a lot different, which I don't know. Because usually when you look at a ship, you look at it like this. You don't look at it from down. You look at it from the up. I mean, technically speaking, when you look at it, you look at it all the way out, so you don't even see the ship. But I don't know. Same as the Eagle. 6.5 out of 10. It is a change. However, it's not a change you will look at a lot, which can be said for a lot of the other guys, but I do like the chunky box wings. So let's go 6.5 out of 10. Basilisk, instead of them being, you know, against the body, they're now spread out. I say spread out. Then the Osprey. You know what I mean, like, the Osprey has them alongside the body, while the Basilisk has them fanned out, which, I don't know, it's same as the Osprey. It's probably just like, is it against the body and this is fanned out? And this head part is a little bit chunkier, I think. Yeah. I don't know. 6.5 out of 10. I still do like the design. It's a little bit more chunky. However, there is, I think, the tournament version of this ship, which I like a little bit more. I won't even go into the strategic cruisers because you can mix and match them. However, I think this is, but they're showing you like the quote-unquote default version, which the Tango is literally just a smaller Typhoon. If Typhoon and a Drake had a baby. But because if I go simulate ship, where are the subsystems. Okay. I don't think it's going to show it here, but each subsystem changes how the ship looks, so I won't rate it because of that, because it can do a lot of crazy combinations. Ferox. It's 3 ships in a trench coat. Like literally it looks like they took 3 different ships, welded them together, said job's done. And I don't know what's about it. And I've given shit for pointless antennas before, which these aren't antennas, they are literally just spikes. These are genuine pointy bits. However, there is just something that calls to me, and I like the Ferox aesthetic. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. I don't know what's about it. It looks something like we would make, unironically. And then we have the Drake, aka not the pancake, the Burcrest is the pancake. However, it's a unique ship design. Because as a certain supercarrier from Amar that we'll get to, you look ships like this, again, top down, and you will think, oh, it's filled out, it's quite a chunky battle cruiser. No, there is nothing below, it's a giant plate. However, it's a giant plate with sloping sides, which makes it slightly unique than most ships, even in fiction in general, and also quite like the Drake. I think I'll also go 8 out of 10. I don't know. It just looks interesting. Like this part here, it's not massive, so it still keeps a certain silhouette without breaking it apart. I don't know. It's a unique design that doesn't do a Mimitar and leaves it leaves a hole, but it doesn't leave holes in the ship, minus the front here part and back here. However, if you ever seen a Mimitar ship, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like this big house. However, the Naga I will give a pass for the big ass holes. Number one, again, not symmetrical, doesn't really matter. However, this is the quote-unquote, how people call it, the Tech 3 cruisers, or the Type 3 cruisers, which are basically, you take battleship, guns, and you put it on a modified cruiser chassis, which battle cruisers historically were. Basically, battle cruisers were just smaller ships fitted with bigger ship armament, aka slightly larger cruisers fitted with battleship cannons. And I dig that. However, compared to the 3 other battle cruisers from the 3 other factions, which are more standard, this one looks like a giant railgun. Am I wrong? No, I am not. 8 out of 10. It's a big gun, and carries big guns. I mean, yeah, well, it's 7.5 out of 10, not 8 out of 10. Because there could be a little bit more detail. But that's just me nitpicking. Now, Drake Navy issue, recolor. Ferox Navy issue, also recolor, so nothing there. Nighthawk, I think because this is older model that wasn't. It's an older model, but it's not an old model, which means no special parts that newer models get. Tech 2 variants at least from basic variants. So nothing for that. Vulture, I think is also just a recolor, so nothing there as well. I wonder what a Tech 2 Naga would be like. It would be really funny if you just you get one dreadnought gun. Now, the battleships. Oh, I didn't do that. I'll do that later. Rock. It has Naga in it. It looks like a big gun. However, it may look a little bit too default. A little bit too much. I was about to say a UNSC ship, but no. It does have a little bit of UNSC frigate vibe / destroyer vibe, but it has a little bit of jackdaw, i.e. long stick, long square, a rectangle if you will. I don't know. At first I liked it. However, the more times I see it, the less I do, I guess. It's still a good design. It's not too abhorrent. I will say a 5 out of 10. Raven. Now this is the ultimate form of the Condor. A little bit. And I'll say I like it. I might like the Golem, i.e. the Marauder, a tad bit more. However, the Raven in out of itself I like very much. Spiky bits, yes, but this time I'll let it slide because if it didn't have them, it would look too flat. I'll give it I don't know, 7.88 out of 10. It's not a 7.5, it's not a 8. 7.88 out of 10. The Scorpion. Like, model wise, it's a very good model, I will say. Especially compared to the old Scorpion. However, out of all the ships, this is like the most on-nose ship ever. And I'm reducing points for that. However, it is a unique silhouette, which you might say all the ships, are unique. However, I think there's only one other ship, and that is like the Triglavian destroyer that resembles it, even in the slightest. I'll give it 1 point for uniqueness. That's about it. It's getting a 5 out of 10. The Navy of Raven, Ray Color, Scorpion, same. However, the Widow Black Ops, I think, is also just a recolor, so nothing there. However, Golem. Okay, in general, it lost a little bit of bulkiness by removing the arch thingy on the left here. However, I would overlook that. It looks a little bit more sleek, a little bit more clean. And I would give it the same as the regular Raven. However, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Because of this here part. Which should be like the CIC, the cockpit, the control area. And if you look at like the normal Raven, I like this. It's sleek, it looks good. It looks a little bit like a turtle, but I like this. I don't like this, however, as it turns it into a hammerhead a little bit, or if you close your eyes and depict it yourself a golem, a little bit of a golem head. However, if it was the normal Raven, I would like it a little bit more. So I will go 6.5 out of 10. Dreadnought the Phoenix. Oh, what to say here? It's a chunky lad. A very, very chunky lad. And the point I made for the Corax, I'll make here. Because it looks like a missile ship. I don't know what's about it, but it does. Is it this parts up front? Maybe. However, it just looks what you think it does, and that's okay. I'll give it 7 out of 10, considering all the other dreadnoughts are lumps minus the Amar one. However, the Amar one is made the wrong way, in my opinion. So I think this might be the highest rated dreadnought out of all of them. Maybe not actually, there might be one more or two more that may be higher rated. But Phoenix, 7 out of 10. And this is something new for me, which are the Navy dreadnoughts, which were added in the last couple years. And the Phoenix Navy just has these two flaps. I will still go with 7 out of 10, the same with the regular, because actually no. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Which you might say, okay, that's a little bit weird. You said you like a little bit chunky. However, the regular Phoenix is already chunky enough. And at the same time slick. This is a little bit too chunky. Or at least too how should I say this? Yeah, too visually chunky. Because of these added parts. So I'll give the Phoenix Navy issue a 6 out of 10 because the original Phoenix just looks a little bit better, in my opinion. Kurura is the Navy, but different colors, so we'll skip that and go to the carriers with the Minokawa. And I'll say this right now, minus the... Is it even the Galente? Actually, yeah, no. I'll say all of these... what are they? Support carriers? The logistic carriers? All of them I don't like. They're cool concept-wise, but visually, like if this was like a station, I would be up for it. I would say nice looking station. However, as a ship, I can't give it more than a 4.5 out of 10. The Veren, I don't know how to pronounce it, is one of the more iconic if ships. And I would give it like a 9 out of 10 in a heartbeat. However, it has the same problem that the Amar Dreadnought has, in my opinion. I.e., if this was the front and this was the back part, and this here, it had here engines, I would say it was a nice looking ship. However, it's the opposite. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still good looking. It's just, I would have liked it way more if it was the opposite of what it is now. So I'll give it, I mean, I don't like that you can see the runway through, which are, going to be honest, big ass runways. I can see the lights, that's like a fighter the size of a 747. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's actually no. The Mimitar and the Galante ones, in my opinion, look better. The super carriers. I'll give this a 5.5 out of 10. It's not bad. It's not the Amar one, I'll say that, but it's not the Mimitar one or the Galante one. I would say the same with this, the Chimera, which is essentially a rock that got a little bit of plastic surgery. Which again, I would argue, like of the regular small carriers, it's the worst one. Okay, maybe not the worst one, but the Galante and the Mimitar know how to make their carriers. I will say that. 5 out of 10 for the Chimera. Chimera. Leviathan. You know what? I'm not even going to rate it, because all the Titans are so big. I mean, the Leviathan is what? 18 kilometers? That it's hard to model them to look good. Well, still, like the Amar one, the best looking Titan. You know what? Actually, no, what did I say? 3 out of 10. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 10. However, I won't go further because, number one, it has that fucking green Witch of the West nose up front. And number two, the reason why I'm going so much, 3.5 out of 10, is because I remember the Mimitar Titan exists. The Galante Erebus is fine. The Avatar Amar Titan is the best looking one. However, Ragnarok exists, and I cannot make this have a lower rating than Ragnarok. So I'll go with 3.5 out of 10. Now it's just the shuttle and the transport ships. The shuttle ain't anything special, it's okay-ish, 4 out of 10. It's a shuttle. It's, you know, a small ship they have. It's okay. Yeah, it's mediocre. I like the Mimitar the best. Yeah. The Caldari shuttle is, out of all the 4 major Empire shuttles, the worst looking one in my opinion. So yeah, 4 out of 10. Again, it's this part, like, select this part shrink Y. And now we have Badger and Tyria, which are basically the same ship except more cargo space up here front. And yeah, this is like the most transport ship to ever transport ship, which is not a bad thing. Both Badger and Tyria I will give a 7 out of 10 because, again, you close your eyes, you picture yourself a spaceship, transport ship. You're probably picturing something like this. Crane. Is a stealth, it has boxes glued to the top, to the side. That's about it. And the bastard, I think, is literally just a repaint, except maybe those, yeah, things below. Isn't not too impactful from the base one. Sharon. Now this is going to be a tricky one because the Mimitor one I don't like too much, nor the Galente. Amar, I do. I would say this is a close second. And for the Amar I would give like an 8 out of 10. So, however, for this, like a 6.8. Maybe 7.8, yeah. Because it's just a big transport ship. And it's one of those ships that, if you look at it from afar, you would think it's a station. I mean, it's 2.5 kilometers long, but still. I will say, I do like the sloping, so like on the left side. I don't know. 6.5 out of 10. The more I look at it, the more it grows on me. That's not going to be the Amar one. It's not beating the Amar one. And Rhea is just a recolor, so nothing from there. Okay. That's been an hour. Okay. Yeah, I can see why this will take a while. But I think that is all. Minus the... give me a second. The special edition, like the best law. Wrong. Actually, that's Mimitar. Huh. I don't have... Page that is technically speaking Caldari, but not really. Covered. Huh. Those. Okay, there. This is pirate stuff. Whatever. Battleship. Minus this Raven State issue. which is just again a recolor of Raven. Huh. Cambion. Again, another recolor. That is Mordu. Whiptail. It's a Guristas Tech 2 Interceptor. Oh god, that bonus though. Oh boy. Because it's Tech 2, it gets resistance, so this is just Basilisk. Have I screwed over Basilisk for no reason? Probably. Chameleon. Nothing to see. Huh. I mean, makes sense to a degree. It's essentially Ray Callers, the tournament ships. Right? Right. Minus the heavy assault cruisers. I think those... No, I think those are also just... Yeah, those are also just recolor. Yeah, but I think that is all of the Caldari ships. I'll take a few notes for next time that I'm probably going to do Galente. Galente or Amar. I want to leave Meimatar last because there you got funky ships. Oh well, I think that is all for this stream. I set a goal, I did it, and that's it. Okay, I'll maybe do it tomorrow, again with Galante. We shall see. Bye bye.